It's time to get some more insight from a New York Jets insider here on the program. The latest happenings in Jets OTAs, plus Sauce Gardner traveling. What happened? What changed? We discuss next. Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field Gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show. Come on, people. Connor Rodgers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor Gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
What's frickin' poppin', baby? I'm Paul Liston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter, every.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you get your podcast. For the second straight day, we dive into the New York Jets beat. This time, we bring on our main man. That is Antwan Staley of the New York Daily News. Long overdue. Let's get him back here on the program. Good morning, Antwan.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. The thing I am curious, though, is this Sauce Gardner travel situation, because last year, every time any of you guys brought it up, Salah seemingly scoffed. Like, we don't do that, man. And, all right, whatever you say, coach. And then all of a sudden this time we hear Sauce do some sort of podcast interview this offseason where he hinted at it. And then there's just been a lot of hoopla this week and all the press conferences about, oh boy, this is happening. What was the change, Antwan? What happened suddenly where now they're open to it where they weren't necessarily before?
I think, Sauce had spoken with the coaching staff about it, and I think that's kind of, brought a lot of this on. I don't think it's necessarily that something that, Salah or you're talking about Jeff Albert necessarily wanted to do, but it's just something that he wanted to do. So I think, kind of what Salah said, like they'll be judicious with it, but at the same time, I don't know if he'll do it exclusively like some quarterbacks do. Because the Jets they're fortunate to have a really good corner on the other side in DJ Reed too, so they don't necessarily need to do it. But there's some instances in the game, and especially considering who they're playing week one, that it might be a good thing for him to, potentially shadow maybe a guy like a Brandon Ayuk or, if you want to talk about Christian McCaffrey at times too. He's also a weapon out of the backfield too as well. Because I remember Sauce's first game. He was lined up against Mark Andrews at times, and then, take it back to Travis Kelce last year as well. So he's done a little bit of that, but just not on an exclusive basis.
Yeah, you said he did a little bit of that because that's what Salah said during the presser, and I'm like, what does a little bit mean? And thankfully, Rich Cimini, another one of your media cohorts there in the room, he wrote an article this morning, and he looked into the numbers, and here they are for Salah saying, well, we did do it a little bit last year. Okay, here's a little bit, by the way. Okay, so 937 snaps on the left side for Sauce, where he normally lines up, 60 on the right. So he's using the word some pretty liberally, 60 to 937. Not sure if that's a lot. But the other thing Salah said is he's not sure if it was a deliberate thing by opposing teams. They just happen to throw away from Sauce. It seems deliberate when you look at the numbers. Another one here from Rich Cimini. Sauce Gardner was targeted a league low 53 times among all cornerbacks with at least 400 coverage snaps. He was last in the league in those targets. So it means they were obviously going to the other side. So it seems like there could be some stuff here. But the question I want to ask off of this is Sauce Gardner is the only corner in the modern Super Bowl era to be named a first-team All-Pro in his first two seasons. So what is the next level here? If Sauce is already the best ever from this standpoint of the All-Pros, what's the next level that could happen if he travels?
Interceptions. That's basically what I think, the next level is. He had two his rookie year, didn't have any last year. So I think he would tell you that. Not necessarily he needs to have like 5 or 6 interceptions because they're not going to throw on his side a whole lot. But at the same time, I think that's the next step in his process and his development is to, bring down a little bit more interceptions. And he said this in the past too. I think he would like to, register a little bit more, some more interceptions than he has. But obviously when people aren't throwing to your side, you're going to have less and less opportunities to do that. But, it's still, chances for him to do that. And I'm sure he, he wants to do that. And I think for me personally, that's probably the next step in his development, just bringing down those interceptions on a consistent basis.
So, how do you just get better at that? Is that just like hitting the jugs machine after practice a couple of times? Because again, the one I painfully remember, I was down there in Dallas. I had the angle, right? It was me, it was Sauce, it was Dak. And when I saw Dak start to look, I'm like, no way he's about to throw that ball. And then he throws it towards Sauce, and it hits Sauce right in the bricks. Would have been a pick six and completely could have changed that game in the first half against the Cowboys. So, how does he suddenly just get better at catching footballs?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily that, although that is a good point too. The Dallas game, yeah, that definitely could have changed a lot of things in that game
Sure.
too. But I think it's a combination of that. I think it's a combination of just studying receivers that you're going up against, what they do, what they like to do, what they don't do well, and just becoming in a way, quarterbacks also have to be good route runners too, because you're trying to study what the opposing receiver is doing, is their tendencies, and just how deliberate they are, just moving their feet and things of that nature. So yeah, I think it's a combination of actually catching the football, but I also think it's more than that. Just understanding just the tendencies of what the guys he's going up against and what they're doing.
And what about the man you're talking to, Sauce Gardner? He comes in as the fourth overall pick. A lot of people have questions. So, like Cincinnati to the NFL, you're about to get a reality check, pal. And so far, like I said, 2 years in, first team All Pro. Who is the man that you've been able to cover and write stories about, Sauce Gardner?
I mean, nice guy. I mean, I think a lot of people he gets a lot of criticism. I mean, and I think a lot of that is unwarranted. I mean, he's not like he's going out there saying he's the best quarterback himself. I mean, he puts himself in that category right now as one of the best. But I think he deservedly should be. I mean, arguably, especially the first 2 years of the league. I don't know if I remember a cornerback having this type of start to a career, at least that I can remember anyway, during my lifetime of covering the NFL. But yeah, I think he's humbled. I think he's somebody that just wants to be the best. He doesn't necessarily say he's the best, but a lot of fans, especially of particular AFC East teams, I won't say who what fan base, but
Hmm.
they call him. And I actually asked him about this the other day during OTAs about just the criticism and how he handles it. And he said he kind of shrugs it off when people call him a PI merchant and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, people are gonna hate. Like, and I said it yesterday on Twitter. I was like, if he played for the Dolphins, then yeah, they would be gassing him up just like the Jets fans do too. I mean, but the fact that he plays for an opposing team, for a rival team, then you try to find something that's wrong with him. And I think that's kind of what a holding situation came about, especially when you talk about Dolphin fans and the way they criticize them.
By the way, what's your sense here? So Sauce Gardner's not eligible for an extension now. So for all the Jet fans blowing up every day, again, the Jets literally can't sign him. It's against the rules. They can't sign him.
Right.
The earliest they can is next offseason. What is your sense, though? Will the Jets be aggressive and say as soon as they can next year, they just lock him in because the number's only going to get higher? Or are they going to play it out like the Cowboys, for instance? Speaking of the Cowboys, they have several guys that they all have to kind of pay at the same time, and they waited. And that seems like that's not working out. Eagles are a team, as another random example, are someone that routinely pays people progressively ahead of time to set them up. What do you believe the Jets will do as it regards to Sauce specifically?
They're going to fight. They're going to face a problem, and I think the same problem that the Dolphins and other teams are facing, where you have to pay all these players at the same time, especially when you had 3 first-round picks in 2022, and then also on top of that, Brees Hall, who was not a first-round pick, you're going to have to decide what to do with him too. So essentially, you're going to have 4 decisions to make in the next few years. So I think Sauce would probably be the easiest one out of the 4 to make. So because he's been playing at a great level, like he's arguably the best player at his position. Not to take anything away from anybody else, other Jets players, but I think he's the easiest one, and yeah, he's going to get more and more expensive the longer you wait there. But yeah, I think that's why this window is critical. I think for them to win now, because if they don't, then now you're going to have to start paying people, and then you have less and less money with the cap, the situation, and things of that nature. So that's why I always say that they have a 2-year window to try to get this thing done, try to win a championship and a Super Bowl. It doesn't have to necessarily be in 2024, but I think it does need to be in the next couple of years, and that's why it's important to get it done now before you for everybody start getting expensive. And then on top of it, you got to figure out what to do with the quarterback situation in Aaron. And, he's getting older and, that'll be something to follow too as well.
Again, we're speaking with Antwan friggin' Staley, everybody, the New York Daily News here on the show. Now, this is going to be probably the weirdest comparison in history that just popped in my brain, but I'm just going to do it. Back in the day, Mike Shanahan thought that he could put anyone in the backfield and they run for 1,000 yards. And so he ends up trading his boy, Dr. Dewich Big, Clinton Portis. He trades him away and the Champ Bailey trade and all that stuff. I'm curious, with the Jets in their corners, they have two corners that are coming up for deals, and Michael Carter II and DJ Reed. Do the Jets believe that their system, Brandon Eccles is another one who's said to be a free agent, that their scheme or whoever, they can plug in anyone and they're going to be able to figure it out opposite of Sauce? Or will that be a priority to kind of lock one of those guys up? Because, again, to your big decision point, those are two of I think I counted 10 or 11 starters that are set to be free agents next year. It's a lot of big boy decisions, but specifically at corner, what's the plan? Michael Carter II, DJ Reed, both go, both brought back. What's the plan?
I think personally, and this is me talking, I think
Sure.
probably one of them stays and then one of them goes. If I had to think, I would think, with Michael Carter II, you would want to keep him, but at the same time, I think he's very underrated. And I think, when he becomes a free agent, I think a lot of teams are going to really cover that, especially that slot corner in this day and age where, so many teams are playing 3 wide receivers or, 2 tight ends. And Michael Carter II has shown that, he's versatile. He can cover a lot of different cornerbacks and things of that nature too. But yeah, I think if you're talking about the Jets in particular, then you have to go back to the Eagles game as well. Remember, Sauce and DJ Reed were both out, and then they still found a way somehow. I don't know how, but they still found a way. They ended up winning that game, and and that was just remarkable. I think that the testament of Tony Oldham and what he's been able to do with the cornerbacks in that room, and also got to give credit to Robert Saleh and Jeff Albert too as well, and the game plan that they had, the scheme that they had against the Eagles. So I think part of it is, I think, they feel comfortable about, the quarterbacks that they have on the roster right now. But I do think they probably would like to bring DJ Reed back if possible.
Yeah, because that's my point. That's the first game I thought of. Everyone, it's okay. The Jets had never beaten the Eagles in history anyway. And then heading in, Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed are out. People are like, Jets, oh, wow, this is going to be embarrassing. They're going to carve them up. And then, I was trying to, Tay Haynes? I don't know I still don't know who that is or if that really happened. But, there were some of these guys that stood in there that you're just it's unbelievable. So, again, credit to the players, credit to the coaches, credit to everyone happening, but then that gives you a light bulb. I had a job earlier in my life where I missed a day and they covered for me, and after they covered for me, that wasn't so bad. We don't need the guy. And then I lost the gig. And I was like, wow, that sucks. So sometimes things just happen like a weird accident. Alex Smith getting that one concussion that gets Colin Kaepernick in the game. He never gets it back. Weird things happen. And then the results are the results as they are. So no, it kind of just got some of my cogs moving last year when I was thinking about it. So we'll see what happens there at the cornerback position. Antwan, you were there this week for the Media Open OTA that everyone was talking about. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. So, Antwan, what was your perspective on Aaron Rodgers? Give us the truth. You were there. All of us outsiders were just kind of reading tweets and watching little mini clips. We don't really know what the actuality is with Aaron Rodgers. What did your eyeball see?
I mean, I thought he was sharp. I mean, he was 8 for 10 and 11 on 11 drills, and perfect 5 for 5 on 7 on 7, which not that big of a deal on the 7 on 7. But I thought just the movement and how fluid he was. You wouldn't necessarily thought he had suffered a significant injury last year, but I definitely think I don't know how close to 100% he is. He didn't necessarily divulge into that when we asked him, but he looks good. I think you have to have a lot of optimism, especially this year, considering, the Jets have put everything in their basket for Aaron Rodgers. And, I think he's ready to deliver. I think he's, like I say, he's throwing really good balls there. Obviously people were wild about the no look pass that the Jets ended up, putting on video as well. We didn't even see that until because we're on a bird's eye view when they put us at, so it's not like we could see his eyes or anything like that, but just to kind of see that throw from the video, I mean, it was definitely truly tremendous. But yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited, and he definitely looked like the guy that you expected coming in once he was traded last year.
Antwan, where do you stand? So I've had beat reporters kind of split up. Some people are drinking the hype. They're like, oh, yeah, baby, Super Bowl, playoffs, all this stuff is possible. The other half's like, guys, this is May. Like, whoa, let's rein it in there. Which camp are you in, Antwan Staley?
I'm not saying Super. I'm not going to say anybody predicting anything in May. But what I will say is, I do think
Okay.
this is a playoff team.
All
I
right.
do think it's a team that can potentially be dangerous. I don't want to say they're the favorite. I'm not going out on a limb being like Mike Clay and saying they're going to win the Super Bowl because
Ah.
everything still runs through Kansas City until proven
Mhm.
otherwise. And then I think also to that point, everything still goes through Buffalo in the AFC East and still proven otherwise. But the Jets find themselves in a good situation where they have an elite defense. You have a tremendous quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. We'll see what he is coming off that injury, especially, what's the live bullets fly because, OTAs, you're basically in shorts anyway. So you really can't judge it too much, although you can get excited about it. But they have a lot of good things going for them, and I like what they've done this offseason too on both sides of the football. In particular, the offense, fortifying that offensive line there, being proactive, also getting fashionable too, which I thought
Mhm.
was a really smart move. Although to some of the Jets fans' displeasure, they passed on Bob Bowers, but I definitely think you want to fortify that offensive line and getting Mike Williams, and I like Malachi Corley getting in that pick in the third round too as well. So yeah, I'm kind of drinking the Kool-Aid, although, like I said, I'm not totally, on board yet. Because again, it's only May, and yeah, I'm not gonna make any kind of crazy predictions, at least this early.
Okay. I was about to say I would have 100% allowed you to
Yeah,
do it because
so
that's the
I'm in
kind
the
of guy I
middle.
am. Yeah,
So I'm
you're
in
in
the
the middle.
middle, like
Yeah.
yeah.
But like I said, that I would have been a great teammate, and I would have allowed you to do that if you wanted to scream from the rooftops, "Mike Clay Super Bowl." I would have allowed you to do so. I just want you to know that. I
Hey,
would let you
you
know.
know what? I wouldn't be opposed to covering the Super Bowl, so I'll just put that out there.
Okay, there you go. Put it out into the ethos. Now you said it's
Another Super Bowl, although I have covered
ooh.
them, it's not on the team that I've actually covered. Put it that way.
Oh, what Super Bowl is that?
Oh, I've covered several.
Oh, wow. Okay.
50, 51, 53. Yeah, it's a few
Oh,
of them.
damn.
Yeah. Well, they just sent me like just to the location. And
Hmm.
then the last one I did was the Chiefs 49ers in Miami. So that was the last
Ooh.
one I've done.
Oh, there you go. And a classic
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes comeback, right? They were down 10 in the fourth quarter or something. So
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yes.
Not too shabby. You said it's hard to tell from OTAs because they're dancing around in shirts and shorts, so it's really
Exactly.
hard to have significant takeaways. But I guess I'll ask you the tough questions here. So on the OTA thing, did anyone stand out? Is there anyone that's kind of went, kind of caught your eye? Either it's a young undrafted player, or maybe a rookie, or a veteran, even anyone that just kind of made you give maybe a little head nod, like okay, okay,
Yeah, I liked Allen. That's kind of the way he ran the other
yeah,
day too. And then Brees Hall wasn't there, so he was. What kind of stood out to me is they had him the number one back with the number one offense, which I was like, okay. Especially considering you have Izzy Bettican, yeah, they're still on the roster. I mean, you
hmm
have Isaiah Davis too as
yeah,
well, who they draft. But I guess they really liked Allen and what he brought to the table, and I thought he ran hard too. Kind of what I saw. Like I watch a lot of college football, so I actually knew who he was coming out of Wisconsin, and I thought it was a really hard runner there. I could see why the Jets really wanted him, especially at the value that he was in day three. And yeah, I definitely think he could have been a potential late third round pick, and to get him where they did, I thought that was a bit of a steal there. So I think you might see a lot of him, featured, outside if Brees, needs a spell or, tired there. So it seems like he's going to be the guy that they lean on towards, like, especially coming out next season.
All right, we got a few more weeks of OTA practices plus mandatory minicamp as it's currently scheduled. Are there players or storylines you kind of have in your notebook that as you go to these OTA practices, like, okay, I'm looking out for this guy, I'm looking out for this guy, I'm looking out for this storyline. What would be in your notebook there?
I mean, obviously, you talk about the offensive line. That's always like a sore subject, whether it be very polarizing with Jets fans. So, especially what happened the last couple of years. So that's always something to look at too. Obviously, Tyron Smith and just kind of the amount that he does and doing OTAs too. Obviously, Fashanu is
Mm,
always he's a new draft pick too. I expect him to play at some point. I don't know what that's going to look like. But yeah, that's something that I look forward to. Alan Lazar, we'll see. A lot of Jet fans are not necessarily happy with him, especially considering the year that he had last year. But with Aaron being back, then maybe that he could be a little bit of a bounce back year. I don't know how much what that's going to look like, but I expect it to be more than 23, 24 catches and one touchdown that he had a year ago. Just the measly stats that he did. But I'm curious to see what his mindset looks like now that Aaron's back in the building on a consistent basis. So those would be the two ones for me. And then, also Hassan Reddick, he wasn't necessarily there during OTAs when we were there, but they're gonna lean on him, especially to get a lot of critical sacks this upcoming year. So just off the top of my head, those would be the three that came to mind for me.
Anything to make of the absences so far? Brees and Hassan. There's a couple others. Is there anything to make of that whatsoever?
No, it's man. I mean, it's not mandatory. I mean, it's all
Yeah.
optional. So I mean, it's not for me. It's not a big deal. So yeah, but I'm sure Wallace Sala be asked about that whenever we talk to him on Wednesday when we're back there. But yeah, I don't lose sleep over optional OTAs like some reporters might. But that's just me.
You mentioned Olu Fashner. You believe he's going to play, and I'm hoping I hope I know the answer to your question here. Olu Fashner, is he only going to play left tackle for the Jets? Are they going to start getting funky and throw him at right or throw him at guard or anything like that? Or are they just going to keep him left tackle? My fingers are crossed for a left tackle answer coming from you.
I actually asked Joe Douglas this when he was drafted, and
Okay.
the plan is for him to play left tackle. So
Right.
we'll see. Like again, a lot of people lie, but it could be a situation depending on if something would happen to Morgan Moses. He does have the flexibility to play right tackle because he did that a little bit at Penn State as well. But the plan is for him to play left tackle exclusively.
Okay, speaking of left tackle, so we got an update from David Bakhtiari, not from him himself, but like the reporters. National reporter said, David Bakhtiari is quote unquote on schedule for 2024 season return. Is this something Jet fans should be monitoring? Because we had been for a bunch of weeks and months going, we got to keep an eye on that because that would mean potentially coming to the Jets. Is that something we should pay attention to, or there's no chance of that happening?
I mean, I wouldn't say no chance, but if I think they're going to sign another offensive lineman, my guess would be they would bring back Connor McGovern because I think they need a legitimate backup center. To be honest with you, I mean Wes Schweitzer is there. Like I assume he would be the backup center if something were to happen to like Joe Tippmann. But I think Connor McGovern just makes so much sense for them to bring back too, especially considering. I mean, right now on a 90-man roster, they have several other quarterbacks, and then they could easily cut one of them and bring Connor McGovern back. But yeah, I think they definitely need to add some more depth on the offensive line, and I think McGovern makes a lot of sense. But I'll never say never, especially considering his history, Bakhtiari's history with Aaron Rodgers, and everything like that. And we obviously seen, especially last year, Aaron Rodgers bring a few of his friends. Although this offseason, not so much too. I think the Jets kind of learned their lesson with that a year ago.
Yeah, I hope you're right on McGovern because, like, to be honest, obviously we're here in late May. Obviously, he hasn't had a lot of interest yet. And plus, for the Jets, for your point of having more interior offensive line depth would be important. It seemed like he had an awesome relationship from the outside with Joe Tippmann. All the things of, like, I hope I get him to the Hall of Fame one day and that kind of stuff. That wouldn't be an easy thing to do, Antwan. If they plugged a young Jets reporter under you at the New York Daily News, say, hey, just kind of mentor him. We're not saying he's taking your job or anything, but you know what I mean? That could be weird. That could be a little strange. There's a guy right there.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, for me, I wouldn't necessarily worry about it. Like I've mentored people all the time, but
Okay.
I think I understand the perspective there too. I mean, I think he understood what it is too. He was under a 1-year contract, and he understood that Tippmann was going to eventually be the guy. I think the part of the reason he might not, McGovern might not have a lot of interest because remember he's coming off an injury, so I don't know how healthy he is or not healthy he is, but yeah, I definitely think that factors in.
Okay, we'll have a couple quickies here, and then we'll get Antwan out of here. I think we froze Antwan. 1 second. Let me see if we can get him back on there. Oh, yep, we got Antwan. Okay, two more before we get you out of here, Antwan, and it's this. who are some players that could be stealing roster spots? Like we all think in May, we have an idea of like who we think is making it all over the place. But every once in a while, someone comes a job of stealing, and then something happens like, whoa, didn't see that coming. And a player we thought was guaranteed for a roster spot suddenly isn't because someone popped and stole a position. Are there any players who should be keeping an eye out for that could be stealing some jobs this summer for the Jets?
Well, I mean, I talked about Izzy Banakanda and it's kind of like him possibly being a guy maybe the odd man out. So yeah, I definitely think that's something to monitor too. I like Leonard Taylor, especially coming out of Miami. Undrafted free agent. I definitely think they can use more help on the interior, on the defensive line too, as well. And losing a guy like John Franklin Myers, I think that's going to be big for him. I'm curious to see like how they obviously have an opportunity to navigate all of that too, because they talked about Michael Clemens and his role, and he could take a more of a significant role this upcoming year. But I don't know. I haven't seen that in what I've seen of Michael Clemens. I'm not necessarily sure he's ready for that. But yeah, I think Leonard Taylor for me is definitely a guy that could potentially steal a spot too. I think a lot of the spots with the Jets are pretty much set, especially considering they have a veteran latent roster. So I don't know if it's going to be that many people that's kind of on the hot seat there, or job stealers this upcoming year, like it was a year ago where you had Brownlee and then Gibson just kind of nowhere. But again, once training camp happens, you start to see these stories, and you never know. Like you just have these camp heroes that come out of nowhere. So I definitely think it'll be less this year, but we'll have to wait and see what that looks like, especially when the pads start to come on.
Yeah, and same question. This may give a similar answer because it's just kind of the reverse process of it. So you mentioned Izzy. Are there any other players that are on the roster bubble, like firmly, like that we, I'm not talking about like guy 89 on the 90-man roster, but guys that we kind of thought had roster spots that maybe not so much?
Yeah, I would definitely look towards Izzy for sure. I definitely think he's a guy that taken in the fifth round too last year. So I mean, he is young as well, but especially considering the depth chart, at least how it's stacked up with OTAs. Yeah, you definitely have to think that he's a little bit on the hot seat too as well. As far as wide receivers, I think they're set there. I think safety, depending on if they were to do something else, I think that is a possibility that one of those guys. I mean, Aston Davis, I expect him to be back too. Tony Adams as well. I'm curious to see, what short clock looks more and more like going on doing OTAs and mini camp and obviously the training camp. But yeah, probably the guy that I probably would look towards is definitely Izzy, at least at this point.
All right. Well, the heat is on. We will see if Izzy can, use that as proper motivation and ends up maybe keeping his gig, and we'll see what happens. Antwan, it was great to catch up, pal. I hope you have an awesome summer. Get to hopefully do some trips in between all this OTA mandatory minicamp business, because then it's a long-ass season from July to February, right?
Well, basically August, but yeah, it's definitely at least they're not starting training camp early this year, so I'm definitely happy about that.
Yeah, that'll be good. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow morning for Boy Green Daily. Take care.